Welcome to a video about the caster-focused Souls-like game, you elementalist bastards. Codex Lost is an indie Souls game that is focused on mage playstyle, so no melee except short-range spells. This is a promotional overview video and the link to the game's page on Steam is in the description. I've played the game for about 12 hours and moved towards the mid-game. It is definitely not a short one, as there is plenty of content to digest. The world is structured through open zones and dungeons. There are plenty of locations to explore with crafting materials, equipment and recipes lying around. Locations are diverse with enough enemy and dungeon variety. Open world zones help in creating a more immersive and dynamic world so that narrow corridors are not the only way to traverse the world, as that would get a bit boring. World is well connected through many shortcuts, and there is a hub area which is the library. In the library, character can be upgraded, teleporter can be used, spells crafted and grimoires stored. Two teleporting options are present. One is a classic fast travel from the library option, but those are quite sporadic. Next to that is a memory font option. Basically activate memory font in the world, of which only one can be active at a time, and then when in library use memory font to teleport automatically to the active one in the world. Collecting grimoires is part of the story progression. We are in the role of curator summoned by the ancients to collect the grimoires that are in possession of 5 lords. These aren't the only bosses, as the game has many others on the path to the big bastards. Interesting thing is that in the story it is hard to tell who is good or bad, or are there even such clear-cut sides.
But then the ancients vanished, never to be seen again.
Codex Lost also utilizes item descriptions, full of lore to deepen the connection with the world and its history. NPCs are present as well that are going to relay to the player more of the backstory. Some of them, like Magron, look quite interesting and have interesting things to say. Then I stumbled upon a guild that offers their services to the ancients and its curator. The game also has a bank of souls option where players can store collected souls or arcana for a fee, which I think is a really good idea.
Yes, you can feel it, can't you? Yes, but it goes on dreaming. For 100 years it has dreamt of this very moment. For all that time it has been without a single grimoire.
Big part of the game is spellcrafting, which is a very nice addition to a game like this. In the library, new spells can be crafted and there are 10 different spells for each spell school. Currently there are 8 spell schools: Arcana, Fire, Ice, Lightning, Poison, Earth, Holy and Dark, so 80 spells in total. Player chooses 3 spells to start with and finds all other recipes in the world. Materials to craft the spells are also scattered throughout. Some are harder to find, so to craft all the spells the player is gonna have to properly explore and progress through the locations. Spells are divided into a couple types like AoE, long range, buff, utility and basic short range spells that don't cost mana at all. Spells are diverse enough and can supplement different playstyles. Appropriate elemental choices are a big part of the game, as spells can only be changed at the library. With new areas, new enemies come that can slow down the progression if using spells from schools enemies are resistant to. So having a diverse set of spells is key in terms of their function and school type. Also, each spell has attributes: poise damage, direct damage, mana use, stamina use and status effect accumulation if it has any. Focus on caster playstyle is an interesting choice for a Souls-like. In my opinion, it is the best possible choice for 3D indie Souls-like because creating really good melee combat has been an impossible task for indie devs. At least I'm not aware of 3D indie Souls-like that do good melee. Problems are many, which would require a lot of time to get done right, and if melee combat in a melee combat focused Souls game is not done right, then the game simply can't be good. Typical melee clunkiness can be seen in Codex Lost as well in terms of combat framework. Enemy attack animation recovery is all over the place, enemies wielding heavy weapons don't seem to be any different as if they were wielding a paper weapon, weirdly sped up attacks, lack of proper melee feedback upon getting hit, But when the sole focus is on casting spells, it isn't as bad, because the casting part negates all sort of melee interaction from the player and the necessity for an in-depth combat framework. Player needs to manage stamina and mana in order to be successful. Mana is used for all except the basic short-range spells, so tactical choice of spells is mandatory, as some use up more stamina and mana with each cast. Mage shield that serves as a block also uses stamina, same like using a shield in Souls games. If the mage shield is activated right before the attack hits, a very small bit of mana is restored. So combat is balanced around preserving stamina, and progression through locations heavily depends on mana preservation. Enemies are plenty and of all kinds of variety, you never know what is behind the corner. Location and enemy variety adds a lot of dynamic to the game, as challenges change all the time. Of course, it wouldn't be a Souls game without big boss fights. Outside of 5 big ones, there are plenty minor bosses that are gonna challenge you in a different way due to different attacks and elemental resistances. Though in boss fights specifically, problems with melee combat I mentioned earlier for indie Souls is more emphasized, as they can be all over the place with the attacks and require more polish to be more balanced and to offer a better experience even for a caster game like this. But it would be far worse if Codex Lost was melee focused. What I like about the bosses, despite not that great voice acting, is that they do talk about their goals and their role in the world. Makes for a nice lore thing.
I thought we were done with this. You witless servants of midlight. Yet again, persisting without end. Yet again, profaning this sacred hall with your filth.
Character leveling progression is simple and makes sense. 5 attributes, each with a clear description. Willpower increases spell damage, intelligence mana pool, memory increases spell slots, vitality, health and endurance stamina. Other than attributes, equipment affects the performance. Staves can be upgraded and each staff is focused on certain elements. Starting staff is balanced, as there are no deficits towards any element, but damage increase is balanced too. Something like Staff of Dawn reduces damage done with dark element, but increases heavily damage with light and fire. It's a nice simple system that works well, so no need to have it overly complex in this case. Visually, for an indie game, Codex Lost looks alright and doesn't suffer from bad presentation. Music is nice, but sound effects need more work to make attacks feel more impactful. Voice acting leaves a lot to be desired, but I can't expect amazing voice acting in such a small budget game. Codex Lost is an interesting indie Souls-like that focuses on mage-style gameplay. Vast amount of spells and spell schools creates a nice dynamic that sustains interest in the game as it progresses, and more spell options become available through spell crafting. Lots of locations and a good number of diverse enemies next to bosses offers enough combat challenges due to different resistances and attack variety. World has its own lore and storytelling through characters and items, which is very From Software, and that is not a bad thing at all in order to create mysteries. Base story has potential. Anyway, that would be all. Check out the description for links to Codex Lost Steam page, my Patreon and Subscribestar pages where I do reaction videos if that is of interest to you. Thanks for watching.